Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and today I'm going to do a video that explains the difference between normal turn 6 and savage turn 6 of the Binding Coil of Bahamut, or second Coil of Bahamut turn 1 versus savage second Coil of Bahamut turn 1. So I want to clear up a few things before I get started. One, this is not a guide. I am just explaining the differences. If people want a guide in the future, I may do it, but that kind of defeats the whole fun of savage, no? And I'm also going to assume that you know all of Rafflesia's abilities from normal mode, so I don't need to re-explain them. With that out of the way, let's go over her abilities. Oh, and one last thing, all of her abilities hit harder. I'm not going to make note of individual abilities hitting harder, just saying. So phase 1 of Savage Mode Rafflesia takes place from 100% to 65% of her HP, as opposed to 100% to 70% that is in the normal turn 6. The first difference is that Rafflesia uses her ability rotation from phase 2 of normal mode, which means right from the start you're going to have bouquet, honeys, and bees. The second difference is that if Rafflesia and a dark matter bulb are too close to each other, they're going to form a tether between them, which will make them both take significantly reduced damage. Meaning, you can't simply tank Rafflesia in the middle of the room and just kill the middle bulbs as they come out. You're going to have to be a little bit more flexible with moving her around and taking in your environment. And finally, Devour is performed in a 360-degree cone around Rafflesia, so you can't use that line of sight method, and tanks also need to create distance between them and Rafflesia during Floral Trap before Devour goes out to avoid unnecessary stacks. Other than that, it is basically just phase 2 from normal mode, but those differences can make a huge difference when you're approaching this fight. Most people will try and get it down to the next phase before you even get 2 stacks of the stacking damage buff from Rafflesia having to eat the honey glazed person, so just keep that in mind. Now for Rafflesia's second phase on the Savage difficulty, it's going to take place for the rest of her HP, so from 65% to 0%. And as you may have guessed, Rafflesia uses her ability rotation from phase 3 of normal mode, but that's not the big difference here. So one of the first differences you'll notice is that Rafflesia will actually continue to cleave in this phase, which means that you do need to watch your tank swaps actually, but that's actually not the worst part of the phase, not even remotely close. So the first major differences you're going to notice are between how you're going to interact with the slugs and the acidic honeys. So first and foremost, the slugs do their AoEs immediately upon eating a slime. This means that if they ever eat more than one slime at a time, they will instantly wipe the raid with the AoE damage. So you need to feed each slug one slime at a time, and means you can't do the super slug method. This means you also need to spread out for every single acid rain to make sure that the slimes aren't all stacked on each other. Secondly, the Enrage timer for potent acid, the debuff that the slimes give you while they're alive, varies depending on the number of slimes alive. If all 3 slimes are alive, it's only going to take 4 or 5 stacks of potent acid to kill you. If you have 2 up, it's around 6 or 7 stacks, and if you have 1 slime up, it'll kill you around 8 or 9 stacks. So instead of just racing to clear them out before the 10 stack like it is in normal, you have these much smaller Enrage windows that force you to pay attention to the slugs in a timely manner. So while you're dealing with the slugs and the slimes, remember, you're still dealing with Rafflesia, her cleaves, her rotten stench, the vines. But the most important thing that is different in this phase, at least in my opinion, it's the most important difference, is Swarm. It's not just going to be an ability that's cast on the tank for big damage. It works entirely differently. So first, Swarm will be targeted on someone other than the main tank. You can get it on the main tank, but it requires a very specific condition. That person who gets targeted will get 4 stacks of Swarm, their movement speed will be slowed a lot, and it's only going to last 5 seconds before it wears off. Now, stacks can be spread out by standing near other players, similar to how when you stand next to somebody while you have Allegan Rot, it goes to them. So the person with 4, if they stand next to one person, then it'll be 2 people with 2 stacks, and then if those 2 people are standing next to somebody, it'll go down to 1 stack on 4 different people, which is your ultimate goal here. Now, for each stack of Swarm you have when the debuff wears off, you'll get hit by an attack called Terminal Sting. Being hit by this gives you a stacking debuff called Terminal Poison. Now, Terminal Sting's damage is calculated depending on how many stacks of Terminal Poison you have when it hits you. So if you have no stacks, it barely tickles you, to be honest. But if you have even just 1 stack of Terminal Poison and you get hit by Terminal Sting, it'll deal upwards of 5,500 to 6,000 damage. And if you have 2 stacks and get hit, it's going to do about 10k damage, and you're probably not going to live that. Now, there are countless strategies for dealing with it, but ultimately, everybody needs to have enough HP to survive a potential 1 stack poison plus a sting. Even if you're going to have a Loquium and Stoneskin Sacred Soils, you still got to have a big HP buffer. at some point in the fight, you're probably going to get hit with a 5.5k sting unless you have the best RNG ever. And no, you can't just have one person get the 4 stacks and only get a single stack of poison. Each stack triggers one at a time, so terminal sting will hit, apply a poison, then the next terminal sting will hit and get a poison. So if one person eats all 4 stacks, they are dead. It doesn't matter. You can't hollowed ground through it either. I would like to mention that Swarm takes priority on targets that don't have stacks of terminal poison. He can still cast it on targets that have terminal poison, but it attempts to prioritize people who don't have it. Just a little tip. And the last, one of the most important differences as well, is that the Enrage timer being so small with the 3 acidic honeys alive being only 4 or 5 stacks of potent acid, and the fact that the phase starts all the way at 65% of Rafflesia's HP means you can't just zerg the boss down. Most groups will do 2, maybe 3 sets of slugs before finishing the boss. Depending on how good your damage is, it can be cut real close if you only do 2 sets of slugs. And those are all the major differences between the fight. It's basically just, hey, these strategies that you did in normal mode, yeah, that's not going to fly here in Savage mode. And then they just changed Swarm to make it more of a pain just because the tank damage, I guess, wasn't really considered a big deal. Although I think a 4-stack Swarm with 2 stacks of the tanking debuff would definitely hurt quite a bit. But those are all the major differences. Hopefully that clarified any questions you may have. Again, if I get enough requests for a guide, I'll do them in the future, but that is all I have planned for the time being. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for more Final Fantasy XIV informations, guides, videos, differences. Apparently now I can throw on to that. And until next time, guys, take care.